Contrary to what a lot of people try to pretend, the food pyramid actually was pretty good. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a bit about this today. And when I make this statement, I want to be clear that pretty much countries that eat very similar to what the old food pyramid was don't have heart disease, obesity, or diabetes at even remotely close to the rates that we do. Just a little minor tidbit. And it's because, when people have a problem with the food pyramid, what do they have a problem with? The fact that there's a lot of carbs? Well, the societies that eat the highest percentage of their calories from carbohydrates tend to be lean. They tend to have no diabetes. They tend to have very low heart disease. They tend to have good longevity. So I'm not seeing the problem here unless you magically think that carbohydrates are bad. And, keep in mind, the food pyramid has been replaced with My Plate because people have gotten more obese. So they've essentially pushed more fruits and vegetables. Okay, that's what they've done with My Plate. People will like to make these weird statements because they don't even look at the food pyramid. They don't even look at it. They make these weird statements and they're like, oh, really, it should be reversed, or people following it got even fatter and all these problems, but people didn't follow it. Okay, or they'll say the weirdest things, the food pyramid should be flipped over. So you think people should be consuming enormous amounts of table sugar, refined oils and butter, added fat? So refined fats and refined sugar are what you think people should get most of their calories from. Okay, that would be the food pyramid flipped over. Because those foods, when you really look at that food pyramid, anyone who's even remotely educated about nutrition knows that those foods are the stuff we should not be eating a lot of. The data supporting this is pretty good. So what's the tip of the food pyramid? The stuff that you're supposed to be eating the very least of, right? They should comprise the smallest amount of your diet up to and including zero, meaning they're the optional foods. Okay, they should be eaten in moderation to minimal to potentially zero. And that's added fats and added sugars. Okay? So, people see that whole breads and cereals and grains thing and they're like, oh, they're telling you to eat a bunch of table sugar. They're thinking, breakfast cereal sugar, but no, that's not what they meant by cereals. They're meaning, oats, eating some oatmeal. But if you're adding added sugars, you're not following the food pyramid because that's on the other extreme. So it's like right there at the bottom, the base was supposed to be starchy carbohydrates. Then up next, vegetables and fruits. Okay, that's kind of what they wanted you to eat. Starchy carbs, then vegetables and fruits. Then protein sources up next. Wide varieties of protein sources, whether it's, plant-based or animal-based, meat, eggs, dairy, or plant things like tofu, extra beans, stuff like that, right? All your proteins. And then above that, all the junk food. All the junk food. That's where all the added fats, all the added sugars are. That would include if you're eating, Cheerios or Cocoa Puffs or whatever, the added sugar, right? That goes up at that tip, right? That's what they're intending. And, people act like this is a failed thing. No, it's only failed because people didn't follow it. Does anyone honestly think that if our society had actually followed that and they got 5% or less of their calories per week from added fats and added sugars, that we would have these problems? We know starchy carbohydrates are not even correlated with obesity or any of these issues. Right? Plenty of bodybuilders eat really high carb diets like that and get shredded down to, so body fat so low that it's not even sustainable. Just as probably more do that than who do lower carbs. So where are people getting this idea? It's only because this was recommended by a government agency and then people continue to eat garbage that they then say, the food pyramid is to blame. How many fat people do you know who eat like that? How many fat people do you know who live on oats and brown rice as a staple, and then vegetables and fruits, then proteins, and absolutely minimize their refined junk food? Their butter, their oils, their table sugar, their high fructose corn syrup, like they eat that as the tiniest possible amount of anything they could eat. It's like in moderation to zero. No, they live on that stuff. It's how people get to be 300 plus pounds. They live on that stuff. Why do you think people get all this heart disease, diabetes, heart attacks before age 60? All this stuff, plus then alcohol and all the other things, being sedentary. The food pyramid's not to blame. Again, when you really look at the food pyramid and you look at how plenty of lean, healthy, fit bodybuilders ate for decades, that's been the normal. Keep in mind, low carb and keto has not been the normal for bodybuilders. That's a smaller subsection. When you think of a traditional, like serious bodybuilder diet, people think brown rice, broccoli, chicken, right? Well, that fits right in that food pyramid. Right in that food pyramid. Or they're, fish instead of chicken, right? Maybe lean cuts of steak. Maybe, but more in moderation. That's how this group is always eating. Some of them choose to do really low carb to get lean for competition. Right? But even then, neither of those groups is eating the stuff at the tip. Do you know any ripped lean bodybuilders doing that? Of course not. So again, the idea is people are misrepresenting it. They'll stand there and say, well, all the refined sugars are the problem. Well, then you can't be against the food pyramid, because the food pyramid says that those are the things that should be absolutely moderated to eat very, very, very little of. Any sort of added sugar or refined sugar. Same people, vegetable oils, refined oils. Well, that's at the tip of the food pyramid too. The only thing these keto clowns seem to love is butter, which the data is pretty strong, showing butter's pretty bad for you, just in terms of overall. So other than their precious butter, what's their problem with the food pyramid then? It literally is telling you to keep refined sugars and refined oils and refined fats extremely low. And again, if people had followed that advice, we wouldn't have these problems that we have. I would go so far as to say if all those things were simply made illegal, like you go to prison if you put that in a human being's food, okay, I think most of these problems would disappear. I think our obesity epidemic and our diabetes epidemic and all of that would disappear within 5 years. It'd be gone. The levels of all those things would be just as low as they were 50 or 60 years ago, if those foods were simply taken away. And that's the same stuff moderated in the food pyramid. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals next time.